Hey guys, welcome to the Hustle Faithfully podcast where determination meets devotion.
You can find us on all streaming platforms by links via www.hustlefaithfully.com. Welcome back to week 3 in this series of the tension of transition. Transitions can be so many different things. They can be good, they can be bad, they can be fun, they can be challenging. They can be multiple at the same time. However, we've touched in the past 2 weeks on some pretty deep subjects, and this week is no different. In the first week, Ricardo made a comment about showing up for his daughters, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is the transition of showing up for this situation will be showing up for your kids when you really had nobody to properly model it for you while you were growing up. So what does that look like, Ricardo? Give us a little bit of a snippet of your journey of, I know you made the comment that nobody really properly modeled it for you growing up. What did that look like for you, and how did you incorporate that into your present day life? How many kids do you have?
Well, of my own 4.
Of your own 4?
Yeah, but between me and my wife, we have 8.
8 kids.
Yeah.
So y'all actually beat my wife and I out of our 6 kids.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd have more if it was left up to me, but it's not.
Sounds like we need to get busy.
It wouldn't do any good.
No, it wouldn't do any good. Yeah, things have been fixed. So, we can get busy anyway. So what does that look like when you didn't have somebody properly model it for you, yet you wanted to make changes between you and your kids?
Well, I want to say this first and foremost. That whole idea of not having someone model it for me became the biggest crutch in my life, because I could always say I didn't have anyone model it for me. So that gives me an excuse for not being able to do it as proficiently as I should. Now, is it true that I didn't really have the model that I wanted for the thing I wanted to do and do it effectively? Yes, it's true that I didn't have the model in the way that I desired it. So that's true. And because of that, it became one of those things that informed my actions and my decisions because of that, because that's kind of what I knew. But I turned something that was a legitimate reason for me not having this instruction, and legitimize it as an excuse in my own mind. And thus, whenever I got to the point where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, I said, well, I can't do this, or I'm failing at this because of that. A lot of it had to do with me being afraid of failing at it. So at times when I got to the point where I hit my head, my level of experience and know-how, when I hit my head in that area, I would default to the excuse, because at that point I'm entering into a territory, or into a space that I'm unfamiliar with and uncomfortable in. So I could always say, hey, look, I don't know how to because of this. But it was an excuse.
How did you push past that excuse?
Honestly, it's been a long journey with really being completely past that. I think verbally I've said I'm past it in some areas, and I think some areas it may still be present in a way that I'm not completely aware. But part of it for me was loving them more than I hated how I felt about not being for them what I thought I should be for them. It's the thing that I hated, the way I felt at times, feeling shame, feeling like I'm substandard as a father and as a parent. And so that transition I faced was a uncomfortable one, from not being a parent to being a parent, to from being a parent that has a limited experience to one that gains experience through failure. and then gain experience through a measure of failure, because anything I learned from is not really failure. And then that transition that I experienced from not knowing to knowing, there's a place there where you have to get over yourself to really become the version of yourself that's necessary for this job that you have as a parent. Right. I had to get over me and over the idea that I could just do this by not doing or doing the opposite of what I saw. That's always been when I hear somebody say that, it's always been for me one of the dumbest things to say is, what is the opposite of what you saw? It sounds good theoretically, but doing the opposite of what I saw does not inform me in how to do the thing that I didn't see.
That's right.
I've got to do the opposite of what I saw, but what does that look like in practical application when it comes to doing the thing that I didn't see actively and being proficient at doing? I tried that doing the opposite of what I saw. I flunked that test miserably, because it was just not doing something rather than doing something. Mm-hmm. And that happened over the course of, man, let me tell you, my oldest is 26, will be 27 this year. I'm actually still in the areas of being a father. I'm still growing in a lot of those areas, especially with my daughters.
Well, everybody is. You're always growing or you're dying. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, do you believe that you are the product of your environment in the way of, if you had a bad upbringing, not saying you did, just using this as an example, if you had a bad upbringing, then you're just doomed to give your children a bad upbringing too? Or can you change it?
Oh, I mean, you could definitely change it. Now, does it have an effect on the things that you do? Yeah. I mean, it's impossible to grow up and see certain things and be taught certain things and to experience certain things and have a certain point of reference. And then all of a sudden that's not going to affect you in any way or shape, what you see and how you see it and what you choose to believe or what you can believe for, you think you can believe for, and how you go about life and how you deal with issues and how you deal with problems. All those things are going to inform those decisions until you get to an age where you realize I have the ability to choose different if I desire to. But up until that point, all you know is what you know. Mm-hmm. And you cannot live beyond what you know. If this all you know, you can't live beyond that because you don't have the ability to, or any reference to know that there is a beyond. Mm-hmm. So I haven't tell someone to ask you a certain question about a certain thing that they have no idea that exists to even think to ask the question that you're telling them they should ask. Right. Like, how do I even know to ask that? And when I don't even know this thing exists to ask you about. Right. So yeah, you can change it. Absolutely. But you definitely have to know that it can be changed to want to change it, because unless you know that there is a different, you don't desire different.
Right. Yep. There's a thing of breaking family curses too. Mm-hmm. I know my wife's late husband, his dad was terrible. Mm-hmm. I mean, the stories that I've heard about him, he was just a horrible, horrible person, horrible father, horrible everything. To sum that up real quick, just so we don't take too much time on the podcast, when AJ, which is my wife's late husband, when he turned 18, his dad gave him a bill and said, here's what it cost me to raise you. You owe me this money back. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting concept, one that I had never heard before then. And I just think, man, I have 6 kids. I'm about to be cashing it. No, I'm just kidding. But, his dad was not present. His dad was just not a good father, period. And then to see how he reacted and how he was a parent to Jack. Right. And of course, I only see this through pictures. Mm-hmm. They had a great relationship. And hearing Jack talk still to this day about AJ, right, he definitely shifted that dynamic. Mm-hmm. He said, this is the way that my father was to me, and this is not the way that I will be to my children. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it definitely can be changed. And looking at you, I've seen you with several of your kids. Obviously, I haven't met all of them. Some of them are grown and grown and gone, don't live around here, whatever. But I see the relationship that you have with your kids and the relationship that you have with your wife's paternal kids. I commend you for changing that dynamic in your life between what you were modeled versus what you're modeling for your kids. So props to you on that.
Appreciate that.
What could you tell our listening and viewing audience as far as the challenges of changing that dynamic and giving them some pointers on exactly how to change that dynamic?
Well, like I said, the greatest change that had to be made is I had to understand that it was okay that I didn't know. What isn't okay is for me to continue not knowing, because there's too many resources and too many avenues to find out how to do a thing that you haven't seen done. But you have to want to know how to do it. You have to care enough to know. Now, just because you don't do it doesn't mean you didn't care, but you have to care enough to actually know or want to know how to do differently. Because you can care and be in a place where I care, but do I care to the point where I'm willing to do the thing that hurts? And that means facing things that I got to face that cause me to feel worse before I feel better. Because a lot of times we'll avoid the thing that makes us feel worse, even if it's going to make us feel better in the long term, because the short-term pain sometimes doesn't, in your mind, it's hard to conceptualize that the short-term pain is going to be outweighed by the long-term gain that I have. So am I willing to face this right now, this tension, this turmoil that I got to go through in order to be in a place to be better for them? And it goes back to what I said before about, do I care more about them or how I feel? Do I love them more than I hate the way I feel? And when you get to where you can truly say, I actually love them more than I hate the way that I feel, then you deal with the part that you hate. You deal with the feeling that you have. You reconcile yourself to the fact that you're going to have to dig deep to get to that. What we started in episode 1 talking about roots and being able to expose roots and be able to dig into the depth that you need to in order to unearth this thing, so that whatever is causing you to not be able to perform or do the thing that you need to do in this role, you can get rid of it because it's hindering your growth. So now you can grow exponentially instead of incrementally, which is what you really want to be able to do as a parent. Because the one thing I told my kids as they got older is that as much as you think as a parent that all these things I'm telling you and I'm sharing with you and I'm teaching you these things, but I don't want you to ever look at me and say, well, Dad acts like he has all the answers, or I know everything, and all these different things. I said to them to their face, even though I'm teaching you, I'm informing you, I'm helping you grow. We're both growing and we're both learning at the same time.
Right.
I'm growing as a parent, you're growing as a son or as a daughter, but we're both growing. I'm learning from you how to be better for you and better to you. And you learn from me how to be better.
Right.
So we're both in this process. And as long as I was willing to stay in that process of knowing that I may not know everything that I need to know, but I'm willing to learn everything that I need to learn so that you can grow and I can be better for you and better because of you. Because if a parent doesn't think they can be better because of a child, then they're missing a huge part of this whole parenting process, because it should help you grow in ways that you never would have without the tension of parenthood. There's a lot of tension in parenthood. There's things that you have to do as a parent that you wouldn't have to do if you didn't have kids. There's sacrifices you got to make that you wouldn't have to make. There's decisions you make that you wouldn't have to make. There's places you would go and things you would do that you would not do, and places you would not go if you didn't do it. There's relationships you stayed in that you probably wouldn't have stayed in if it wasn't for the kids. There's all kinds of things that you have to deal with mentally and emotionally. But some of the greatest pain you ever experienced is as a parent, and then some of the greatest joys you have experienced is as a parent. So the thing about it is you have to be okay knowing that there's some stuff that I'm going to have to confront and deal with in this process and in this role as a parent that sometimes will expose the worst of me. But if I allow that to happen, it'll create the best in me. You know, so those are things that I personally I had to do was be okay not being okay in the role that I was in as a parent. Well, like I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Well, I'm admitting rather than saying I'm seeing the benefit. I mean, not benefit, but I'm seeing the fruit of my parenting in my kids. There's certain things that's going on that are not good, but I can convince myself so I can feel better that I'm doing well. Man, I'm doing a great job because all my kids are doing this and they're doing that and they got this, they've accomplished this and they've done that and all those things. But all your kids are mentally and emotionally scarred in ways that you're unaware of because you're tooting your own horn, not knowing the trauma that you've experienced. You're passing it on because they're emotionally traumatized in areas that you're unaware of. Because in the area where you've been traumatized, you never healed from it. So you actually parenting them in a way and out of the same well that you drew from without even knowing it. Because you never learned to address it. You just learned to hide it.
Right.
So it shows up sometimes unannounced in ways that you're unaware of because it shows up looking like the thing that wasn't planned. Like whatever you hid, it didn't show up looking like what you hid. It showed up looking like what it grew into. So they're dealing with this thing and they're faced with this, and you don't know that they're dealing with the thing that you hid when you were 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 that you hid then because it doesn't look like the thing you hid. So say that's not it, but that's actually the fruit from the thing that you planted. So you don't even know to deal with it. They're having to deal with it now. So they're having to face a foe and fight a battle that you didn't face.
Right.
So that not only do they have their own battles, they have yours to fight because you didn't fight.
That's right. That's right. As a parent, one of our duties to our children is to fight our battles and not run away from them.
Yeah.
Because just like you said, whenever we run from the battles we're supposed to fight, we're in essence just passing it along to our kids and saying, hey, I wasn't big enough to fight this. Now it's your turn. And I know me as a parent, I can't speak for every parent. Yeah. I don't want to see my kids go through hardships.
Yeah.
Fact is, they are.
Yeah.
One of my daughters was in my room last night crying because of something with a boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, whatever he is right now. It pains me to see that because, you know, we've been through those things. That's one thing I told her last night is, baby, we've been through breakups. We understand. And to a degree, again, just speaking for myself, I want to go in there and say, hey, baby, look, this is how to handle this. But I can't.
Right.
Because she's got to go through it. She's got to experience it. She's got to really learn the ways. Now, a couple of nights ago when my wife and I were talking to her, Kate did say, look, here's really 3 ways that you can handle this. Yet she didn't say, this is how to do it. And those 3 things was so generic that it covered everything. I mean, those were really only the 3 ways to handle it.
Right.
Whereas me as a dad, I want to say, baby, it's love you. It's time to move on.
Yeah.
But I can't.
Yeah.
Because she's got to go through that. She's got to experience it. And so when she goes through it, she'll be able to help her kids through it later on in life. Now, again, sometimes that is like we're talking about, knowing that you don't just go in and say, look, this is what you do. You got to let them figure it out. That's hard. That's hard as a parent. That's hard because you just want the pain to stop for them.
Right.
Sometimes it's not that easy. So the transition that she's going through, at least thankfully, we're there to model it for her and help her through this. Not say, look, this is how you do it. Point A, point B, point C. No, it's here's some options. Figure it out. We're here for you to help you navigate the waters.
Right.
But when you don't have somebody that modeled that for you, would you agree that you have a bigger undertaking than somebody that does have it modeled for them growing up?
Yeah. It's really, really difficult. It's like trying to suck a golf ball up through a straw. You know, I have the ability to use the straw, but what needs to come through the end of it is too big for me to get through what I have.
Right.
Like I have the right. I mean, I have the tool to be able to draw into me the things that I need, but the amount that I'm lacking right now is too big for what I have the experience to know how to do. So I'm trying to draw this thing through something that's too small. You know, my experience, my point of reference is way too small for this.
Yep.
You know, so that makes it a lot more difficult, man.
When you're faced with those situations, what do you do? Are there podcasts? Are there books? Where do you go to find the answers when you've never had those answers modeled?
The things that I've done in my life, I've gone to the Bible one. I've gone to people that I've seen that have the experience in the area that I want, like guys that I was friends with that grew up in a household with a mother and father. You know, now mind you, in the area that I grew up in, there are very, 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 very few homes that have mother and father. But as I got older, I've met more people, more guys that grew up in a home with a mother and a father. And then they married and they've been with the same woman for 30, 40 years. So they have experience seeing it, and because they saw it, they modeled it.
Right.
You know, and then their kids, you see the difference in their kids and then the difference in my kids or other kids. You're like, okay, I can see the result of you growing up with it and seeing it. And then you're not able to model it, and your kids are byproducts of that.
Absolutely.
You know? So it looks different. So I'm asking questions like, man, like, how does this work? You know, and ask questions about things that I may not have known. Like, you know, how did you get this, or how did you do that, and you know, why did you do that? How did he turn out that way? She turned out that way. These kids, they're all doing amazing things and successful and so forth. And I know a couple of people that are that way, and then I know a couple that didn't have it growing up, but one guy went to the military, got some discipline, got some things that he needed in order to help him when he got married, to really be able to do the things that was necessary for him because he didn't have it growing up with his father and so forth and so on. So there are different ways that where you get help. Like I said, the military for some that didn't grow up with it, then those that didn't grow up with it, they have an instruction in home. And then there's other resources like you talked about, books, but even the books, having head knowledge is not the same as practical knowledge that's applicable to your life in a way. I can read and understand intellectually all day and never ever see the reality of that in my life because I know how to apply it. So being able to have a mentor that you can go to talk about these things, but it has to be the right mentor. Mm-hmm. You can't be mentored in your private life regarding family with the person that mentors you with finance.
That's right.
Because does finance have a role within your framework of your family? Yes, but that's all they know. They can't help you with relationship.
Right.
You know, so that's part of it. Like I said, podcasts, mentorship. Like I said, the Bible is one that I reference and go to. Books, just things like that. There's peers that we have that I trust that I can go to, but those are the things that's helped me throughout the years.
Nice. Yeah, there's always resources, especially in this day and time of the information age. Mm-hmm. There is a concept of being very cautious of where you're getting that information from, because you hit on it. You wouldn't go to marriage advice or family advice for finances. Mm-hmm. Yes, they overlap. Mm-hmm. Yet find people that it's their specialty.
Yes, sir.
I know some people that have a mentor, and that mentor mentors them for everything. It's dangerous.
It is.
I don't care if they are a phenomenal business mentor and, you know, they've amassed millions or billions and their family falls apart.
Right.
Every, 3 years.
And they got a different family every couple of years.
Exactly. So just be very mindful of where you're pulling the information from that you're getting.
Yeah.
But everything can be changed.
It can. Every single aspect of it, except the experience, can be changed.
Right.
The experience is what it is. But what you do with it, how you process it, and then how you respond because of it, all those things can change.
Right.
You know.
The experience also gives you a different way to teach it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So your experiences are there for a reason.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Especially the mountains.
Yeah.
That's very hard to say,
mm-hmm.
but we've all heard that you learn more in the valleys than you do the mountaintops.
Yeah.
And it's very true.
And that's if you're aware that in the valley is where you dig your well and draw your water and equip yourself for the next mountain.
Mm.
Because if you're not, you'll spend time frustrated in the valley, waiting to climb the mountain, and you'll climb ill-prepared.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's in these low places where I learn the most and where I have to grow the most. Because if I don't, I'll come back down the mountain real quick.
That's right. That's right. Wow. So we have established today that everything's changing. Even when you have not had someone to model for you
mm-hmm.
exactly what you need.
Yeah.
How to show up for family. It's really about mentorship. That's a large part of this, because you have to find the people that have had success in that area to draw from. So who are you reaching out to? Who is mentoring you? Who is helping you get from where you're at now, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, to where you want to be? It's all about growth. Life is about growth. You are always growing or you are dying.
Mm-hmm.
Find those resources that will help you get to the levels that you're wanting, to the levels that you are seeking, to the levels that you know that you deserve to be at. Whether that is family related, financial related, business related, fitness related,
mm-hmm.
find those that can help you. There is a huge wealth of knowledge out there. And here's the thing. When you read a book, you're condensing decades into days, because that author is taking their experiences that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And you can learn from them. Maybe that book took them 10 years to condense down into 200 pages, and you're able to read it and apply it within 200 pages within, 10 hours worth of reading versus 10 years worth of work, 10 years worth of experiences, good and bad. Always find somebody that can help you get to that point. To those people that will say, hey, I believe in you. You've got this. Keep pushing. Not somebody that's going to fluff you up and tell you that everything's great. And you're saying, no, I'm drowning. This is not great. This is not good. But they'll hear you. They're a lot easier to talk to. They're a lot easier to find that common ground with and to help push you through. Right. The people that are not judgmental. Those people that say, okay, you've had some hurt. You've had some heartache. Let's go. I believe in you. Your secrets, if they're secrets, are safe with me. But continually pushing forward and saying, you know what? I had no one to teach me how to do this. So let me find somebody that does. Mm-hmm. I had nobody to teach me how to successfully run a business. So let me find those that can help me successfully run a business. Ricardo and I have some friends that are much further along in their podcasting life than what we are.
Yeah.
And we talk to them and we find out things of how to increase and improve ours because they've already been through it. So let's learn from their experiences. This goes in every stage of life.
It does.
Ricardo, you've shared some in-depth stuff with us, and I appreciate that.
Oh, you are.
Some personal stuff of your upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we do that? Why do we share things of what we've gone through? Whether it's our upbringing, whether it's death in the family, or next week we're going to be getting into the tension of transition when you go from the mountaintop of making a sustainable living to not. We'll get much deeper into that next week, but always having somebody there to keep encouraging you, to keep believing in you, because there might be times where you get to the point of where you don't believe in yourself.
Right.
It's not a fun time.
It isn't. And the thing that all this does in sharing this information, we're not just sharing it just to be sharing it. There's specific reasons for why this information is shared. One thing it helps with is there's a certain relatability that we have and you will have with us, because there's things that we all go through that are common to us all. One of the worst things you can do is localize a global issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's as if you're the only person going through it. No one else will understand. No one else is experiencing this but me. This woe is me thing. Why me? Why me? But then you find out there's others that are going through things that are similar and maybe even worse than what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody that can understand what you're facing and what you're dealing with, and someone that's overcome the things you're trying to figure out how to overcome. So being able to be transparent about these things, being able to be honest and open and transparent about it is so important, because if you don't, you'll lock yourself in with the lion, so to speak. The thing that's destroying you mentally and emotionally, and at times physically, because stress will literally kill, is the thing you end up locking yourself in with, because you say no one else will understand, so I won't talk about it. No one else is dealing with this with me, so I won't talk about it. So you end up locking yourself in, saying I'm going to protect myself from the responses of others that don't understand and will ridicule me. And you inadvertently protecting yourself from the outsiders, but killing and dying from within. You're killing yourself. So we hope by unpacking this stuff ourselves and sharing some of these things that we ourselves have gone through and have experienced, that it will help you unlock the gate and let the lion out. So that others that are able to help you can come in, and the thing that's killing you leaves. So we hope that this podcast has been helpful to you the first week, this week, all of the episodes and other topics that we've had over the last year. I don't know how long we've been on this podcast, but there's a lot of things that we've talked about that are helpful. And I hope that me and Jonathan both hope that this discussion we've had over the last 2 weeks and the subsequent weeks that we'll have will be helpful and impactful in your life. So stay with us, guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And next week, again, we will be talking about financial transitions. So join us again next Thursday for the Hustle Faithfully podcast. And until then, remain blessed and unstoppable.
Talk to you guys later. Remember, if you're going to hustle, hustle faithfully. Talk to you later.